on as well, we're going to see some ANC cadres awarded, given some awards a little bit later on. But right now, as I say, we're waiting for the ANC president to arrive, and we've already started to see some of the people that have arrived. Heads of state from other parts of the continent and former heads of state, such as Kenneth Kaunda, Jerry Rawlings, all expected to be part of this auspicious occasion. Since early morning, a lot of music and dance has really been the way that the celebrations have gone so far. There's a festive mood here, and as the senior figures of the ANC have been walking into the stadium, they've been receiving rapturous applause from the thousands that are here. So the stage is set for what should be a momentous day. Everybody now waiting for the president of the ANC to arrive so that he can give, as part of today's celebrations, the January statement, which is a tradition that's been carried on since 1912. But this year, of course, takes a significant role, given that it's the centenary year. And so that'll be the statement that we'll hear from the president. We'll find out what's on his mind. I guess it'll be reflective, looking back at the 100 years, and perhaps maybe even touch on the future that's ahead. So all eyes on Mangaung today, the Free State Stadium, full to the rafters, and people have been celebrating in dance and in song throughout so far the morning. The first thing that happened today actually was a church service which took place at the Wesleyan Church, where the ANC had its first meeting back in the day in 1912. And there we saw people like Mangaliso Kachwa speak about the significance of the role that the church has played in the struggle. And that service really setting up, I think, today, which will be heartfelt for many South Africans. There's one South African there enjoying a moment in the sun. It's pretty hot, but it certainly isn't putting these people off their enjoyment here. I'm going to say that this stadium is full, which means that there's a lot of people who are not be able to join us inside the stadium, but there are venues outside the stadium where people will be following on big screen, and Solofelo Matibedi is at one of them. Let's join him now and find out what's happening where he is. Solofelo?
Peter, I can tell you now, we are now at what I can term the overflow area, which is the athletic ground, which is just behind the main stadium. Here, everybody is here. And to show that it's overflowing, other people have decided to just go stand at what is a parking lot just behind us. So you can see that everybody, and when I say everybody, I mean everybody, young and old, they want to ensure that when the history of the ANC is written, the history of the centennial, they can say that we are here. We were here and we celebrated. And then what I can say is that to ensure that that happens, they don't want to be told. They are here in their thousands. And this is how we as the SABC are ensuring that even you, the viewers at home, is not left behind, and you become part of this, the centennial celebrations of the ANC in Mangaung. Back to you, Peter.
Solofelo, thank you very much indeed. And there are various locations such as that one where people are finding a way to enjoy and celebrate. I guess 100 years is a long time for a political organization, a party liberation movement. And along the way, many people will have their own special memories of how they're going to celebrate today and what the ANC has meant to them. Not everybody was directly involved on the front line, as it were, and for some, just belonging to the organization meant hope. It meant a route to the eventual freedom that they are experiencing now. So today, in your own way, I guess, if you're an ANC supporter, and even people that aren't will recognize that the ANC's contribution was significant, and it really captured the hearts and minds of a significant number of people throughout the years. And whatever challenges the party has faced over time, being banned for more than 3 decades, going underground, forced into exile, somehow they always manage to keep into the hearts and minds of the people. And that's what's going to be celebrated here today, no doubt. Yesterday in the evening, a very special dinner was held, and messages from people such as Kenneth Kaunda, who really was one of the frontline states that helped contribute to the freedoms that in fact, let's listen to Matthews Poza is now arriving. He's the Secretary General of the Treasurer General of the ANC, and he's expected to be arriving now. Let's see these images, and very likely he's just arrived apparently. As I said earlier, all of these gents, as they were coming in, there he is greeting the Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe. As all of these NEC members were arriving and their names were announced, they got huge applause from the crowds here. They're really backing their party today. We saw images a short while ago of Winnie Madikizela Mandela, who for many throughout the struggle will be regarded as the mother of the nation, and she, as well as many other women who are in the audience today, and we'll point them out to you as we see them. There she is, who really was one of the bravest women in the struggle, and continues to voice her concerns for the people. So for her, the struggle continues, and she's certainly ANC through and through. A big day for her and for men and women of all ages. Julius Malema, the Youth League president, still also got a reception. However, it was a little bit mixed, I have to say. There were some perhaps not embracing him, but he did also get quite a big cheer from the crowd here today. A controversial figure, but certainly one that has played his part in leading the Youth League. The speaker there, the national chairperson of the ANC, Baleka Mbete, speaking there to Matthews Poza and Kgalema Motlanthe. She also received a huge welcome when she arrived in the stadium today. So all eyes now waiting for the president to arrive and wondering what his message might be. That image there you can see next to Ms. Baleka Mbete was Gwede Mantashe, who's the Secretary General of the African National Congress, and he certainly got a rousing welcome when he arrived. All right. Joined us, a very warm welcome to the Free State Stadium in Mangaung, Bloemfontein. This is the venue for part of the celebrations. I would say that the main feature of this year's celebrations, where we will see the Centenary torch delivered and also the address by President Jacob Zuma on this auspicious occasion, celebrating this day 100 years ago when the African National Congress was formed. Music and dance has been the signature of the celebration so far, and the song that you can hear now is a celebrated musician from Zimbabwe, Oliver Mtukudzi, with a song called Todi Senzeni, What Shall We Do? And I think that it's significant in the sense that Zimbabwe also was one of the frontline states during the South African struggle. Many South Africans found themselves in Zimbabwe, living in exile there. And the deputy president of Zimbabwe has arrived. On your screens there, two icons of the South African struggle, Mr. Mlangeni and Mr. Kathrada, who themselves spent many years on Robben Island. And I would hazard a guess that this is an amazing occasion for them, given that whilst they were in jail, they could only hope and dream of a day such as this. True stalwarts of the struggle. Deputy President Halima Motlanti and the Treasurer General of the ANC, Matthew Sposa, looking at the program for this afternoon. And according to the program, we're going to start the proceedings with the national anthem, and that will be followed by the opening by interfaith prayers. Religious leaders from the different faiths will take turns in blessing this day and this occasion. We'll also be waiting the arrival of the Centenary torch from Vryhoek, a procession that departed a short while ago, and it should be due in soon, of the Centenary torch, which was lit at the church where the first ANC Congress took place, the first ANC meeting took place in 1912 on this day. After that, we'll see the acknowledgement, a message of support. We're getting lots of cheers here. Let's find out who's arrived and who's walking into the stadium. It looks like it could be the arrival of the president. We'll have to wait and see. But I think there'll be a huge cheer when we see the president arriving. Jacob Zuma, who has come into the presidency at perhaps the most significant time for the party, celebrating 100 years, a huge time for him to be addressing ANC supporters and people from around the world. There's been a lot of interest by the media from various parts of the world on this significant occasion. So it takes on an international dimension as well, such has been the importance of the African National Congress. In fact, recently, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, said that the ANC was more than just a political movement. He was saying that, I guess in a sense, that it was an inspiration to many. Certainly a lot of liberation organizations across the continent of Africa drew their inspiration from the ANC, which, as you would probably know by now, is the oldest liberation organization on the continent. 100 years old today. And that's why these women are dancing and celebrating as they dance to this music. They're having a good time. It's a great day for many South Africans. One of the former ANC presidents there, James Moroka, and Albert Luthuli, of course, the first African to receive a Nobel Peace Prize. Oliver Tambo, who himself was the longest-serving ANC president, who spent most of that time in exile. And Nelson Mandela, the first ANC-led president of the country after the new dispensation in 1994. Oliver Tambo, Nelson Mandela, great heroes. And Thabo Mbeki as well, who played his part, one of, I think, two former ANC presidents to have served 2 terms, if we don't put O.R. Tambo into the equation. And of course, an image there of the current president, Jacob Zuma. Excitement and the noise that you're hearing now marks the entrance of the South African President and President of the African National Congress, Dr. Jacob Zuma, as he waves to the crowd. Dr. Jacob Zuma, as he waves to the crowd, is receiving rapturous applause and a very warm welcome from the crowd here. He's making his way to the podium, and that will mark the official start of this afternoon's proceedings. There's a festive mood. People have been breaking into spontaneous song throughout the course of the arrival of the NEC members in particular, and also struggle heroes in the past are here to join in on this momentous occasion, waving to the thousands and thousands of supporters that have packed the Free State Stadium here today. It's a pretty hot day, but I can tell you no one is going to be put off at all today. They're going to enjoy themselves throughout the course. And this party is one party that's promising to go well into the early hours of today. After the celebrations and the official part of today's marking of the Centenary, there's going to be a big party that's going to be taking place here with some of the country's top musicians, and also a momentous event that you'll be able to catch on SABC1, where they will highlight the 100 years of the ANC in 100 minutes. Affectionately known as Msholozi, President Jacob Zuma waving to the thousands that are here in the Free State Stadium. And if you can hear the noise, the singing and the chanting, this is a group of people that are here to celebrate their organization, their 100 years, a movement that gave them hope and eventually delivered the freedoms that every citizen of South Africa now enjoys. Jacob Zuma, the 12th president of the African National Congress, who I would say has got a huge speech to make when he gets to his address a little bit later on. To be president at such a significant moment in the party's history is certainly a responsibility that he's taken on. And I think a lot of people will be waiting with great interest to hear what the message will be from the president of the ANC. After 83 years of fighting the system, the apartheid regime, and then, the 17 years post that in free South Africa. Jacob Zuma greeting fans, ordinary people. And that's one of the hallmarks of President Jacob Zuma, is that he's always trying to make himself available to people at the grassroots, even sometimes to the frustration of his handlers, who are concerned obviously about his security. But he's always been a man that's made himself available to the people and wanting to be as close as he can to them. And they're certainly enjoying touching the hand of the president of the ANC on such a momentous occasion, celebrating 100 years. President Jacob Zuma continues on his walk. He's walked right round the field, right round the stadium, waving to the thousands that are here. And as he gets to various portions of the stadium, a spontaneous round of applause and cheers is what's signifying his arrival. And he's making his way now to the podium, to the stage where other invited guests, NEC members and senior figures of the ANC have already gathered. Basic Education Minister there, Angie Mutseka, also ANC Women's League President, clapping hands there, joining in with the thousands of fans, as I say, that have filled the Free State Stadium here today to join in the celebrations on this momentous milestone, 100 years of the African National Congress. All right, so as you can see, the stadium is pretty full now, and people are getting very excited. But to get a better sense of what's happening on the ground, we have Tammy Dixon right in the stadium there. Let's find out what it feels like from where he's standing. Tammy?
Thank you very much, Peter. Welcome to the pitch here at the stadium. 46,000-seater stadium, packed to rafters, man. We are told that even outside the stadium, all the overflow areas are full. In fact, I was talking earlier on to the officials of this municipality in Mangaung, telling me that over 200,000 people have already gathered, not only here in around this stadium, but also around this city. That tells you about the excitement, the electric mood that has actually taken over and overwhelmed the city of Mangaung. This is reflective of that mood here in the stadium as well. We are standing right at the entrance to the stage here. We are expecting a lot of dignitaries to come in, those who have not come in already. We've seen the leaders of the ANC coming in. Obviously, the president has just got in, and other presidents from other countries. We know that there are about 46 heads of state that are expected to be here. We've seen many others already arriving yesterday. Others have attended the dinner last night, making their address, reminiscing about the days of their relationships in exile with the ANC. So this is the day of celebration indeed, and it will culminate into a much anticipated address by the president of the ANC, Jacob Zuma, who is going to capture the essence of this day to remind people that beyond this hype, beyond this fairy tale and excitement that is here, there's a job that has to be done to ensure that the message is not lost in terms of what the African National Congress stands for and what it needs to do furthermore going forward into its second centenary. Let me take it back to Peter at the stage.
Tammy, thank you very much indeed. As you say, a big speech ahead, and certainly one that will be reflective, but also, I guess, as they hit the 100 years, a moment to consolidate and to look forward. As the president greets members of his cabinet and of the NEC, Derek Hanekom there getting a high five from the president as he greets. Can't quite see who that is. It looks like Correctional Services Minister, and there's Maitem Kona Shaban, who's did a good job recently in leading the COP17, getting a hug as well. So the stage is set then for a very important afternoon. There, a big hug, Reverend Jesse Jackson, who's come all the way from the United States and certainly has been in the mix in terms of these celebrations in the past few days. Comparisons will be drawn, of course, between what's been happening in the States during the civil rights movement, during the 60s, 70s in the US, and the struggle against apartheid in South Africa. And he says that a kinship and a fellowship with fellow struggles certainly has brought him here. And many people in the United States during that time were interested in the struggle in South Africa. And the dancing and the singing just will not stop today. People finding their own way as they chant the ANC songs, new and old over time, just capturing that moment. And for many, this is a once-in-a-lifetime, in fact, all of us, a once-in-a-lifetime event where you can celebrate the centenary of a long-standing party such as this one.
Maqabane. Ayihlale phansi bamba umthetho ma-marshals yenzani umsebenzi wenu. Ayihlale phansi bamba umthetho ma-marshals yenzani umsebenzi wenu. Marshals, do your job.
Speaking now is the ANC National Chairperson, Baleka Mbete.
For you to be thrown out if you want to mess up our centenary celebration. Celebrations. Comrades, we take this opportunity to welcome all our guests. We welcome the leaders from all the countries that have come to attend the centenary celebrations, especially the heads of states and government. We would like to also welcome the delegations from different political parties, both in South Africa and internationally. We would like to make particular mention of delegations from fraternal parties and organizations from the anti-apartheid network of the whole globe. You are welcome. At this point, I would like to ask the choir to lead us in the singing of the national anthem. The singing of the national anthem. Of the national anthem.
As the choir prepares itself to lead the crowd in the singing of the national anthem, we've just been hearing from the national chairperson of the African National Congress, Baleka Mbete, welcoming all the guests here, and also friends from abroad, including presidents, former presidents that have come from the continent, and also sister and brother parties who helped them in their fight against apartheid. We know that some parties have come from countries such as Norway and Cuba as well, who've been friends of the ANC, particularly during the struggle, and certainly to this day. They're here to join in the celebrations, and the choir is now forming itself on the stage to lead everybody here in the singing of the national anthem, which will mark the beginning of this afternoon's proceedings.
Centenary, Africa.
with that, the singing of the national anthem, the formal let's go back to Balikambete.
Corporate National Chaplain, please walk towards the stage. We are now getting into the interfaith prayers led by our national chaplain, Reverend Meana.
Comrade Chair, President, all protocol observed. We are now coming to the moment, a solemn moment of the prayer of 100 years, which will be done by various faiths of our land. May I now invite from the African religion, Father Nduku, to come and lead us. Followed by Chief Rabbi Goldstein, who must come nearer, from the Jewish faith.
Umongameli wezwe nombutho iphini lakhe ubunkokheli bethu bonke buphela. Amagu Magos Thokozani bogogo Lisedi the great spirit of God, the God of Prixley Ka Isa Kaseme, the spirit of Mafuguzela, the spirit of Mahato, the spirit of Maroka, the spirit of Tumanokwe, the spirit of Tuma, the spirit of Mahabane, the spirit of Makobagamati, the spirit of Yemyem, so Picha Ngolom Sila, Uzonda wazonda zitshaba kodwa ngeke zimenzento ngoba uhleli phezulu e7 room. The spirit of Zuma nxamalala maphuma ephethe ezandla zosibini ephethe okuhle kodwa. The spirit of Florence Maxeke, the spirit of Adelaide Tambo, the spirit of Albertina Sisulu. We call upon all the spirits of our kings and the chiefs as we gathered here, being men and women, old and young, coming from the river banks, coming from the valleys, coming from the mountains, coming from the hills, coming from the cities, the township, and the periphery of the rural areas. We gather to thank our great spirit of our God, the great spirit of our ancestors, for the strength that you have given us to travel all the years. We thank you for the blessings and the achievements as a country, as a continent, as a nation, and as a world. We continue to give respect and salute our fallen and living heroes and heroines. We thank for their sacrifices and guidance and leadership. We further our great God, God of our ancestors, ask you to give light as you did in the past. As we are going to enter the new century, we request your guidance so that we can have strength, so that we can have vision, so that we can have leadership that has got the wisdom to lead into a society that is free of all the ills a society that is free of poverty, a society that is free of crime, a society that is united. We thank you, our Lord. We thank you, our great God. We thank you, our ancestors. Makos, Tamagu, Naua, Pula, Haine. We thank you.
We now invite Chief Rabbi Goldstone from the Jewish faith.
I would like to bless the President and the members of the NEC and all who are gathered here and all our fellow countrymen in this beloved country with the most ancient blessing that is known to humankind. The words of the blessing that comes from the Bible, the book of Numbers, the priestly blessings that were uttered by the priests in the temple in Jerusalem. This blessing goes as follows. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May the Lord bless you and protect you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May the Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Lord turn his face towards you and grant you peace. Shalom. Amen.
We recognize among our faiths that we've got Baha'i, we've got Muslim, we've got Hindu, we've got Rastafarian, and many other faiths which have been part of this celebration since Friday. We now invite a special guest to this celebration all the way from the United States of America. My brother in Christ, I now invite the Reverend Jesse Jackson to give us the Christian prayer.
Today, we say happy birthday to a new South Africa, 100 years old. Bless AMC and President Zuma today. We know 1,000 years is but a day in your sight. We humbly approach thy throne of grace, thanking you for many benefits, especially the dignity and freedom we realize today. I ask you to forgive us for our sins and the foolishness of our ways. Redeem us, renew us, revive us, light afresh the revolutionary spirit in our hearts, and make life better for all and better for none. We know there are challenges before us. We know that David did slay Goliath, but Goliath had sons, and so giants keep coming. We breathe afresh in this South Africa. This is the best South Africa the world has ever known. A multiracial, multicultural coexistence, the best South Africa the world has ever known. We learned to survive apart, now we learn to live together in this, the new South Africa. We celebrate leadership that paid the huge price to make this day possible. We thank and we pray in a special way today for the martyrs, Oliver Tambo and Nelson Mandela, and Walter Sisulu, and those who paid the price, those who were banished. Today we bless Chris Honey and Steve Biko and Hector Peterson and Medgar Evers and Malcolm X and Dr. King. We thank you for the power of the innocent blood shed at Sharpsville, for those whose courage led them to face treason trial and Rivonia trials, for those who survived Robben Island. We thank you today. We've had a long century of pain, and yet you taught us weeping may endure for a night, but behold, on joy cometh in the morning. It's morning time, and we're faithful to the end. We remind you today, dear God, bless this organization and its efforts. Though we walk through valleys and shadows of death, we'll fear no evil, for thou art with us, and thou is a powerful weapon. Your grace is sufficient, so we seek healing today. We seek hope today, And if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, God, you will forgive us for our sins and heal our land. Thank you for healing. Thank you for hope. Thank you for the ANC. Long live the joy of a liberated Africa. Amen.
We now ask that, Lord, you bestow us with the blessings which have been given by these various faiths. We pray for this gathering this afternoon, that it may be a peaceful gathering. We pray for our President Jacob Zuma, your servant, as now, in the few moments, he will be giving us the message of the 100 years of you, God, giving us our divine leadership. Be with him as he gives us that message. Be with each and every one of us. Give us joy, peace, and harmony. We ask these things in the name of Shikwembu, in the name of Kamata, in the name of Zimu, in the name of Mudimo, in the name of Allah, in the name of Krishna, Muhammad, and our Lord Jesus Christ, now and forevermore. Amen.
Thank you very much, Mfundisi, and your team for the prayers. I now announce the arrival of the Centenary Flame, which was lit by the President of the African National Congress and the President of the Republic last night at midnight at the parting of the 2 centuries. That flame will now be brought in, and the President will receive it on the stage. Comrade Deputy Secretary General, can you please conduct the issues of the flame coming up to the podium? This flame is going to play a very important role throughout the year. This flame will stay in this province of the Free State throughout this month, and the provincial leadership will map a route for the flame to move from Mangaung and move to other districts and regions of the Free State. And as it moves from place to place, this flame will help our people to remember our history, to remember what our sacrifices have been, the sacrifices of our ordinary people in the villages, in the squatter camps, all over our country. The flame will then be handed over to the next province, and the next province is going to be the Western Cape. After the Western Cape, we'll have had the flame for the whole month of February, also moving it from district to district, mapping out a route for that flame to be a symbol around which our story is remembered by our people. It will then move to Mpumalanga. Can we please open a route here for the people leading the flame to move forward? The veterans of the ANC are accompanying the flame, the Centenary Flame. Wozani TSG.
the centenary flame now making its way towards the president of the ANC.
The flame reminds us of what happened 100 years ago. That the foundation conference of the South African Native National Congress lit a flame here in Mangaung, which flame went and ignited the structures of the ANC and the spirit of the ANC throughout the country. So we are reliving what happened 100 years ago. When we will have finished with the role of the flame, before he leaves the Free State, the president will hand over the flame to the provincial leadership. DSG, please come to the podium.
And there we see members of Umkhonto weSizwe taking the flame along its journey. They themselves celebrating 50 years since the formation of Umkhonto weSizwe, 1961. This flame has been traveling from the Wesleyan Church.
The flame is coming. The flame is making its way to the central spot on the podium. Can you please move in with the flame? The Centenary flame, which will move throughout South Africa throughout 2012. The flame will be handed over to the veterans of the ANC, who will bring it towards the podium. For the rest of the proceedings of the Centenary program this weekend of the birthday of the ANC, the flame will stay on the podium.
And the flame now has been received by Ahmed Kathrada, a Rivodian trialist, and Robin Islander. I think he's joined by former President Thabo Mbeki. the last two of the ANC veterans carrying the torch.
Viva the African National Congress! Viva! Viva umuntu wesizwe! Viva! Phambili nomlilo weCentenary, phambili! The veterans of the African National Congress, joined by the former president, Comrade Thabo Mbeki, are bringing the flame. You mean if you're there? The Centenary flame is being handed over by the veterans and Comrade Thabo Mbeki to President Jacob Zuma. President Zuma and Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe have received the flame and they are taking it to its position on the podium. Phambili nombutho wesizwe, phambili!
And there rests the Centenary torch, which will be paraded for the duration of these celebrations, but will make its way around the country, province by province, district by district, as it symbolizes the struggle that the ANC has taken the people through in the last 100 years. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue with our live coverage of the ANC celebrations here at the Free State Stadium in Mangaung, Bloemfontein.
Is Lotto na 36868 en kry jou Lotto en Lotto Plus resultate. Doen dit nou en kry speletjies, tones en vele meer. Dis Lotto na 36868 nou.
Lekker mobile. Kry jou voedsel vir die siel. Van stroopsoet cuisine tot umami braais. Nuwe generasie voorpunttegnologie vir 'n nuwe generasie mens. Wees belese van kussens tot krog. Prikkel jou dramatiese sintuie dag en nag en laat jou verbeelding reis sonder grense. Vier warm musiek, rock, opera, tradisioneel, inheems en klassiek vir elke oor. RSG op 100 tot 104 FM. Dis die een. Kry jou voedsel vir die siel. Van stroopsoet cuisine tot umami braais. Nuwe generasie voorpunttegnologie vir 'n nuwe generasie mens. Wees belese van kussens tot krog. Prikkel jou dramatiese sintuie dag en nag en laat jou verbeelding reis sonder grense. Vier warm musiek, rock, opera, tradisioneel, inheems en klassiek vir elke oor. RSG op 100 tot 104 FM. Dis die een.
Membership of the African National Congress and our alliance.
Welcome back to the Free State Stadium here at Mangaung, Bloemfontein. This is the venue for the celebrations of the ANC marking 100 years of its existence. And so far we've seen interfaith prayers opening the session, the celebrations this afternoon, and a short while ago we saw that centenary torch being delivered, which will traveling across the country in the next year, but to cover this event, we've got Desiree Chauke, who's joining us in Johannesburg, who's got a guest there. Desiree?
Well, thank you, Peter. No doubt a celebratory mood in Mangaung, and that torch, that centennial torch coming up, being transferred with Professor Tiniko Maluleka, one of the experts whose analysis has been greatly respected in terms of following the movements of the African National Congress. Prof, welcome.
Thank you.
It has been said that people such as yourself who come in every now and again to give us analysis on issues, and in this particular sense, we shouldn't be over-analyzing, but just being celebratory. Is that your sense?
Look, I think we need to do both. I think it's important to mark the momentousness of this occasion. I mean, 100 years of an organization which was not being encouraged to exist, not in this country, not outside the country. One of the enduring institutions that this continent has. You know, building institutions is one of our challenges on this. Ourselves analyzing what is going on. We need to do that because we have 100 years ahead of us, just like we have 100 years behind us.
But also that even as it reaches 100, it's still going strong. That is something to recognize.
Yeah, certainly. For all the challenges the organization is facing, for all the weaknesses that its detractors might point out to, it's still around. It is the big deal in this country, on this continent. It continues to fire up the imagination of millions of South Africans, and their hopes hang on it as well.
Let's just speak to the scenes that we've just seen at Mangaung, the centennial torch being passed through the veterans with the former President Thabo Mbeki onto the current leadership of the ANC.
A very, very powerful symbolism of handing over from one leadership contingent to the next, from one generation to the other, if you like, one administration to the other. Now we can talk like that. The
one
ANC
could also not be faulted into thinking it's sort of a way of making up for the fact that the handover was never properly done previously.
Yeah, well, you could say that the handover between this current president of the ANC and the former one was not very smooth. But we've got to think 100 years and not just 10 or 5 or 15
or a few years ago.
We've got to think much larger. And it's not always easy. I mean, that's why many of us get stuck with the current issues within the ANC. But if you look at it over a period of 100 years, the symbolism of what we saw there is quite powerful.
Professor Tiniko Maluleke will be spending the next 2 hours or so with us. We're on until 6 a.m. in the morning, but for now we go back to Peter, who is at the Free State Stadium in Mangaung, where all the celebrations are taking place.
Desiree, thank you very much indeed. And there you can see on your screens the Centenary torch, which is going to be seen right across the country over the next year as a symbol of the ANC and the journey that it has taken, and symbolizing the importance that the ANC has been to the lives of many people throughout this 100-year history across the country. Now, as we're speaking now, the national chairperson of the ANC, Baleka Mbete, is addressing the crowd here. But there are people that are watching this from outside the stadium, as Tsulufelo Matabele has been finding out. Let's find out where he is.
Thank you, Peter. I'm at the stadium that's just behind the main stadium, which is the athletic stadium. As I indicated, there's a whole lot of people, and they're not allowing not being in the main venue dampen their spirits. They've been singing along. They've been singing the signature tune of President Zuma, which is Mchinwam. When he made an entrance to the stadium, they've been singing songs of praise towards him. They're not letting not being in the main venue dampen their spirits. They are sitting on the lawns. As you can see, many of the people that couldn't sit on the stands have now sprawled all over the lawns, and they are part of this. They're singing along, they're ululating, they're saying we are standing up to be counted, and we are forming part of this celebration, and we are here. Back to you, Peter, in the studio.
Silafolo, thank you very much indeed. Let's just catch a little bit of this praise singer as he gets the crowd really excited. We're expecting the president to address us shortly.
The filament of freedom, the calyx of consciousness, the coroner of people's cause, the answer of amicable solutions, the pistol of peace. City halala msholozi halala. City halala NC halala. Sereleba mbeliga choni. Nena galopu inkurungware yo manyano. City pambili ngo manyano NC pambili. Tatinda wayako tolala nkunzizo mkuba. Tatinda wayako gana kunkulu ya lilise. Tatinda wayako ntalifa ya lila samsa butangene. We are not going to show us in your standing daba. Necham, yo!
Thank you, comrades. Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, heads of state and government, former presidents of the ANC, Isitwala Ndwe, Nelson Mandela, at home, and Comrade Thabo Mbeki, and Comrade Thabo Mbeki, who is here with us. Former heads of state and eminent persons who are with us here today, Deputy President of the ANC and the officials of the ANC, National Executive Committee members of the ANC, the ANC Women's League and the ANC Youth League. And the ANC leadership of Umkhonto Wesizwe Military Veterans Association. the leadership of the SACP, SACTU and SANCO, our friends from all over Africa and the world, comrades and compatriots, the African National Congress, the oldest liberation movement on the African continent, turns 100 years old today. We have come from all corners of South Africa, Africa and the world to celebrate this historical milestone. It is not only a celebration for the African National Congress and its members only. It is a joyous celebration for all the people of South Africa who, with the support of the continent and the world, destroyed colonial oppression and apartheid, and are building in its ruins a free, democratic, non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous South Africa together. It is truly an emotional and yet very exciting and moving occasion, which fills us with great pride and joy. We extend a special welcome to all heads of state and government, eminent persons, and all our friends from the anti-apartheid movement worldwide who have joined us for this event. We have the pleasure to release our comprehensive January 8th statement today, which outlines our history. I will, in this address, provide highlights of this journey of 100 years of selfless struggle. Excellencies, compatriots and friends, allow me to begin by paying tribute to my predecessors, the past presidents of the African National Congress, John Langalibalele Dube, Sefako Mahatu, Zach Makhabani, Josiah Gumede, Pixleka Isaac Seme, A.B. Kuma, J.S. Moroka, Albert Mvumbi Lutuli, Oliver Reginald Tambo, Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, and Thabo Mvuyelwa Mbeki. Your Excellencies and compatriots, it has been a long road since 1652, when settlers arrived in our country. It has also been a long road since that meeting of European powers in Berlin in 1884, where they carved up the African continent and shared the pieces among themselves as colonies and dependencies. As a race, virtually all Africans had been reduced to subjects. Many years later, in October 1911, Pixlika Izaga Seme made a clarion call for the unity of the African people. He said, Zulu Mxhosa Msuthu Hlanganani, calling upon the African people to bury the demon of racism and tribalism and face the challenge before them. The following year, the people of Southern Africa responded to the call by dispatching delegates to Bloemfontein. The delegates included esteemed traditional leaders such as Solomon Katinuzulu, Musewa of the Barolong, Lewanika of the Lozi of Zambia, Letsia II of Lesotho, Balosibeni from Swaziland, Dalindyebo of Abatembu, Sekukuni of the Bapedi, and Khama from Botswana. King Dalindyebo provided 115 cattle for the occasion in 1912. This time, as we are here in the Centenary, Abatembu, following in that tradition, have provided 50 cattle for the ceremony. The Congress of the Traditional Leaders of South Africa, Contralesa, added 2 cows as well. King Letsia III of Lesotho, the reigning king, the grandson of King Letsia II, who attended the founding Congress, provided the cow that was used for the cleansing ceremony yesterday of this centenary. On the 8th of January 1912, the South African Native National Congress was then founded at the Vryhoek Church here in Bloemfontein, later called the African National Congress. It grew to become a custodian of basic democratic values, principles, and practice in our country. The principle on which the ANC and the rest of the democratic movement have constantly stood is stated unequivocally in the preamble of the Freedom Charter. It says, and I quote, "South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, and that no government can justly claim authority unless it is based on the will of all the people," unquote. The ANC set out to achieve that goal of founding a South Africa that was free, just, and which belonged to all. 1 year after its formation, the ANC confronted one of its biggest challenges when the Native Land Act of 1913 was enacted. It stripped the African people of their homeland by racist statute, a move that could be called ethnic cleansing in current terminology. This indicated the challenge that the movement would have to deal with. The ANC mobilized the South African people across the racial, gender, and class divides. The ANC, a disciplined force of the left with a bias towards the poor, is also a broad church that is home to all. Its membership and support base comprises nationalists, Marxists, Africanists, workers, capitalists, women, men, youth, rural, urban, rich, and poor. This has become one of the biggest strengths of this glorious movement. Your Excellencies, compatriots and friends, the movement prides itself on having a strong historical relationship with the working class. The South African Communist Party was formed in 1921 and had engaged itself in issues affecting workers and the working class. Already then, the seeds of a unique alliance were germinated when the ANC and the Communist Party of South Africa resolved to work together in 1929. Meanwhile, the relationship with the trade union movement can be traced back to the first major trade union of Africans, the Industrial Workers Union, which was formed in Bloemfontein in 1920, and also through the South African Congress of Trade Unions, SACTU, and later the Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU. President General Chief Albert Luthuli referred to this relationship through an analogy that said the ANC was the shield and the South African Congress of Trade Unions the spear. Comrade Oliver Tambo eloquently articulated the importance of the alliance as follows, and I quote, "Ours is not merely a paper alliance created at conferences, at conference tables and formalized through the signing of documents and representing only an agreement of leaders. Our alliance is a living organism that has grown out of struggle. We have built it out of our separate and common experiences." Unquote. President Nelson Mandela, addressing an SACP Congress in 1995, said about the relationship of the ANC and the SACP. He said the following, and I quote, "It is a relationship that has detractors in abundance, a relationship that has its prolific obituary scribes, but it is a relationship that always disappoints these aspects because it was tempered in struggle. It is written in the blood of many martyrs." unquote. This revolutionary partnership became invaluable in advancing the struggle for freedom. As we celebrate the centenary today, we pay a special tribute to generations of working class leaders who have made an impact in the history of our struggle. Among them are Elijah Bahai, Chris Dlamini, John Komomo, Jay Naidu, Oscar Mpeta, Ray Simons, Moses Mabida, Moses Kotane, Raymond Mhlaba, Govan Mbegi, Joe Slovo, Harry Kwala, Edwin Mufusanyane, Dan Klume, Kenneth Ndlovu, Stephen Dlamini, John Kadimei, Billionaire, and many others who served everyone of our revolutionary organs with distinctions. In addition, the historic Congress Alliance during the 1950s brought together the ANC, the Congress of Democrats, and the South African Indian Congress, Colored People's Congress, and the South African Congress of Trade Unions, SACTU. The Congress Alliance played an important role in the advancement of the Freedom Charter, which arose from an idea by ANC intellectual and stalwart Z.K. Matthews. Your Excellencies, compatriots and friends, today we also salute women and recognize the pivotal role they have played in the life and growth of the ANC, from the Bantu Women's League in 1931 to the ANC Women's League in 1948. We also recall the Federation of South African Women, which united women across the color lines in the struggle against apartheid. Women had also been part of earlier campaigns. As early as 1913, women right here in Bloemfontein marched against Tompasses. Many years later, women undertook that historic march against Tompasses to the Union buildings in 1956 in Pretoria. We honor the many women who have played key leadership roles in the struggle. Amongst them are Lillian Ngoyi, Betha Towa, Adelaide Tambo, Albertina Sisulu, Dorothy Nyembe, Nomzamo Winnie Mandela, Margaret Goza, Gertrude Schope, Florence Muposho, Ruth First, Ray Alexander, Helen Joseph, Rahima Musa, Sophie Dubrain, and many more. Your Excellencies, compatriots and friends, today we also remember the contribution of the youth to the advancement of our struggle. The ANC Youth League has produced outstanding leaders of our movement since its establishment in 1944, such as Anthony Lembede, Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Oliver Tambo. The youth of the 50s and 60s who played a leadership role in joining Umkhonto weSizwe up to Peter Mokaba. The Youth League played a pivotal role in energizing the ANC during the 1940s and produced a program of action that was adopted by the movement in 1949, influencing the mass action that characterized the Defiance Campaign and other campaigns. We recognize the militant youth of June 1976 Soweto uprising, led by C.S. Mashinini and others, who challenged the myth about the might of the apartheid state. We acknowledge the class of 1994, which contributed to the demise of apartheid by strengthening the ANC and contributing to its overwhelming electoral victory, which led to the birth of a non-racial and non-sexist South Africa. The present generation of youth continues to defend the democratic gains of our struggle through mobilizing for a better life and organizing masses of youth into the ANC. Your Excellencies, compatriots and friends and comrades, recognizing the important role of veterans in our movement, the ANC created the Veterans League in 2008 to enable these cadres who play a role in the movement and share their experience and wisdom. Today, we also celebrate the fact that for many generations, the ANC has promoted unity of purpose and action among the oppressed. One such example is the three doctors pact that was concluded between the presidents of the ANC, the Transvaal Indian Congress, and the Natal Indian Congress in 1947. This pact was meant to unite Indians and Africans and forge cooperation on the promotion of equal economic and industrial rights, removal of land restrictions, housing, education, full franchise, freedom of movement, abolition of past laws, and the removal of discriminatory and oppressive legislation from the statute books. Compatriots, it is remarkable that our country was able to produce a non-racial struggle despite institutionalized racism. In this regard, the ANC has always and shall continue to cherish the contribution of a small but courageous contingent of white Democrats who committed themselves completely and selflessly to the realization of a democratic change in our country. This unity across all these divides have strengthened the ANC and brought us to this phase of celebrating 100 years of selfless struggle. Your Excellencies, comrades and friends, the promotion of human rights of all has always been a key feature of the ANC since its formation. The ANC human rights blueprint preceded the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. This makes our movement one of the pioneers in the development of a human rights culture in the world. The ANC adopted its first Bill of Rights at the 1923 ANC conference and later at the 1943 ANC conference. The movement adopted the historic African Claims document, which included a Bill of Rights. In another demonstration of commitment to human rights, the ANC signed the Geneva Convention of 1949, which regulates the conduct of armed conflicts and the protection of prisoners of war and civilians. That is why, when the ANC came back from exile, it came back with its prisoners of war in compliance with the Geneva Convention. This human rights culture is enshrined in the Freedom Charter and the Constitution of a post-apartheid South Africa. It is one of the traits of the ANC that we are celebrating today. Your Excellencies, compatriots and friends, the Defiance Campaign was one of the outstanding landmarks in our struggle. It redefined ANC cadreship as it led to the development of a volunteer corps in the ANC. The volunteers played a key role in the life of the movement. They were disciplined and participated in the organizing of various campaigns. We salute President Mandela, who was our first volunteer-in-chief. Responding to the repression of the Defiance Campaign period, the ANC leadership called on Nelson Mandela, the volunteer-in-chief, to prepare a strategy document to restructure the movement, to enable it to adapt to rapidly changing conditions of the struggle. He produced an impressive plan named the M Plan. The document proposed that the ANC should be reconstituted from an organization based on geographically conceived branches to one built on smaller, more intimate cells that were vertically structured like a pyramid, thus permitting the rapid transmission of information and directives between higher and subordinate structures. The move was well timed because as the resistance mounted, the regime escalated its repression. On the 21st of March, 1960, police opened fire on unarmed demonstrators in Sharpeville, killing 69 people. The ANC and the PAC were banned on the 31st of March, 1960, and the ANC began to operate underground. Due to increasing intransigence of the apartheid regime, the ANC deeply deliberated and took a difficult but historic and important decision to adopt the armed struggle as a way of proceeding with the struggle. It established Umkhonto weSizwe as a nucleus of a national liberation army. MK announced its existence with a number of national coordinated sabotage actions on government installations on the 16th of December in 1961. Nelson Mandela was its first commander-in-chief. In response to this, the regime passed laws to make death the penalty for sabotage. It also introduced laws that allowed 90 days of detention without trial and arrested members of MK leadership in 1963. Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Govan Mbeki, Raymond Mhlaba, Elias Motsoaledi, Andrew Mlangeni, Ahmad Kathrada, and Dennis Goldberg were charged, found guilty, and sentenced to life imprisonment. The majority of them served it on Robben Island. The Robben Island prison was turned into a political school by the ANC. The struggle continued even inside prison. Amongst shocking acts of abuse of power, the apartheid regime instituted the Sobukwe Clause to extend his stay in custody. For him to be in a prison environment, they sent him to Robben Island. Comrades and friends, there can be no better occasion that this ANC centenary can be celebrated, and the bravery and determination and selflessness of all detachments of Umkhonto weSizwe, the Lutuli detachment, June 16, Mankada, Matinyoka, and the Lang Yalonj detachment. We salute MK illustrious commanders, Joe Modise, Chris Hani, Joe Slovo, Vuesilemeni, and the other leading members of MK, Solomon Mahlangu, Marcus Motaung, Telemu, Hoe, Mukhweran, Cherry, Mosololodi, Mtutuzi Kuma, Monsi Obadi Mukhabudi, and Monty Mutau. We salute the MK cadres and commanders who conducted sabotage actions from December 16, 1961 and the following immediate period. We acknowledge as well those who fought in Zimbabwe in 1967 and 1968 in the Wankies Polilo campaign, those who conducted operations inside the country throughout the armed struggle period, those who joined forces with Frelimo fighters in Mozambique, and those who fought alongside the MPLA in Angola during the 1970s and the 1980s. We honor Flag Bushielo, who had distinguished himself in struggle since the Defiance campaign, and Falden Mzwonke, a seasoned peasant fighter whose track record stretches back to the 1940s. Your Excellencies, comrades and friends, as we celebrate the ANC centenary, we celebrate the ANC in its totality. And therefore, MK was part of the ANC, and the cadres of the ANC showed their selflessness in the operations and activities of MK. And that's why today we remember leaders and cadres, those who sacrificed and those who faced the enemy without flinching, those who believed in the spirit of no surrender. We also pay a special tribute to the people of Botswana, Swaziland, Lesotho, and Mozambique, who died during the apartheid army cross-border raids in search of MK bases. We also highlight women who were sentenced to jail, such as Thandi Modise, Dorothy Nyembe, Helen Pastors, Greta Appelgren, Teresa Ramashomola, Amina Desire, Barbara Hogan, and Marion Spark. Comrades and friends, this occasion also enables us to pay our respects to the 134 South African patriots, most of them MK soldiers, such as Solomon Mahlangu, who paid the ultimate price for freedom when they were executed by the apartheid regime in Pretoria. Our freedom was definitely not free. It was achieved through the blood, sweat, and tears of many selfless revolutionaries and cadres of our movement. Your Excellencies, compatriots and friends, the ANC owes a great deal of gratitude to its president, Oliver Tambo, who worked tirelessly to establish friendships and solidarity across the world and helped to mobilize the world against the apartheid regime. Building on the initial contact made by Moses Kotane, who had worked hard to deepen the relationship between the former Soviet Union and the Communist Party of South Africa, President Tambo visited Moscow in April 1963 and developed strong relations between the Soviet Union and the ANC. The ANC also acknowledges the support we received from socialist countries. We are also indebted to countries such as Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark for their support. The people of Zambia, through their independence movement and mass organizations, received and assisted our movement even prior to their independence. We acknowledge the presence of our father, President Kenneth Kaunda, in these celebrations. Angola and the leadership of Agostinho Neto, President José Eduardo dos Santos, and the MPLA served as a secure rear base for our army and its personnel until 1988. We welcome the Neto family to these celebrations who are with us here. We single out Cuba for her unwavering solidarity politically and militarily. The epic battle in Quito Cunaval in Angola between January and March 1988 forced the apartheid forces to retreat, guaranteeing the sovereignty of Angola, paving the way for the liberation of Namibia and leading eventually to our own freedom. It indeed changed the political landscape of Southern Africa. Tanzania became our second home. We established settlements and were given land to build the Solomon Mahlangu Freedom College. We extend our deepest gratitude to Chama Chama Penduzi and Mwalimu Julius Nyerere for this solidarity and support. We welcome the Nyerere family who have joined us for these celebrations today. Botswana played a pivotal role and a very important role in our struggle when it was, at one time, the only exit and entry point for our cadres and leaders. In fact, many of the comrades we talk about here, be Joe Modise, Joe Slovo, Oliver Tambo, Moses Kotane, JP Max, they went through Botswana, all of them, without exception. As a result of its role, it was subjected to many attacks and raids by the apartheid regime. We will forever be grateful for the contribution it made. We are grateful to Uganda, which provided political support and basis for MK in 1989, when we had to leave Angola following the passing of the Resolution 435 for the independence of Namibia. We thank our immediate neighbors, Swaziland and Lesotho, where many of our cadres stayed and from where we ran some of our operations inside the country. We thank Frelimo and the people of Mozambique for solidarity that cost them dearly, economically, politically, and also when the apartheid army conducted cross-border raids, leading to many loss of life. This country also lost its president, Samora Machel, on South African soil. We highlight most of Africa, Zimbabwe, Algeria, Guinea-Conakry, Ethiopia, Benin, Nigeria, and others who provided all kinds of support to our struggle. We thank the Organization of African Unity and the United Nations, which accepted the ANC and PAC as legitimate representatives of the South African people instead of the apartheid regime. We also register our gratitude to the anti-apartheid movement, which played an enormous role in bringing apartheid atrocities to the attention of people of the Western democracies. Your Excellencies, compatriots and friends, we pay tribute to comrades inside the country who enhanced the political activities from the underground and influenced political activity in the country. Special mention can be made of comrades like Joe Kabi, Winnie Mandela, Harry Gwala, Zoli Malindi, Me Lesia, Dorothy Nyembe, Lawrence and Rita Nzanga, Samson Doe, Albertina Sisulu, Helen Joseph, Betha Kowa, and others who continued the link with the ANC in exile. In Soweto, community leaders such as Dr. Ntato Mutlane and others assisted students during the Soweto uprisings. They played an important role as a contribution to the struggle. The leader of the Black Consciousness Movement, Steve Biko, played an important role in conscientizing many Black South Africans that they were their own liberators. His brutal murder in police custody on the 12th September 1977 led to a local and international outcry and robbed the country of an energetic and committed patriot. The year 1979 was declared the year of the spear by the African National Congress, named after the centenary of the Battle of Isandlwana, and the ANC went on the offensive. The movement had attained maximum political and organizational unity and strength. The armed actions which we had resumed in 1977 were having the political impact we desired. In other words, the ANC had reached the level wherein it could respond to what the regime was doing in every feasible and at every level. The ANC was beginning to determine the political agenda of the day rather than reacting to what the enemy was doing. Culture continued to be an arena of struggle. We acknowledge the role of artists such as Miriam Makeba, Hugh Masekela, Jonas Kwangwa, Julia Pahula, Keifas Semenya, Leta Mbuli, Dorothy Masuka, Harry Belafonte, and the Amandla Cultural Ensemble, the MK Cultural Group, and others who kept the spirit of the struggle alive around the world. Compatriots, by the early 1980s, the regime had banned all our people's organizations and gatherings. To discuss our oppression was virtually impossible. People survived by gathering in women's, students, workers, and issue-based organizations. These organizations multiplied throughout the country. They had become the main vehicle of waging the struggle. In August 1983, history was made when more than 400 organizations gathered in Mitchell's Plain in Cape Town and founded the United Democratic Front. Formations such as the South African National Civic Organization, student organizations, traditional religious communities, organizations, and those representing academics, lawyers, workers, sport, and others played a key role in the activities of the UDF. The role of the church was also more pronounced. The ANC has had a long relationship with the church since its inception. The World Council of Churches and the South African Council of Churches worked tirelessly in the promotion of justice and the fight against apartheid, mobilizing the church around the world. We acknowledge the critical role of church leaders such as Father Trevor Huddleston, the Reverend Pius Nodi, Archbishop Dennis Halley, Father Smangaliso Mkachwa, Emeritus Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the Reverend Alan Bosak, Sister Bernard Nube, and a host of others in fighting for a free and democratic South Africa. The emergence of mass-based organizations during the 80s under the banner of the UDF made it possible for President O.R. Tambo to call for South Africa to be made ungovernable and apartheid unworkable. An atmosphere of mass insurrection prevailed in many townships and rural towns across the country during 1985 and 1986. The ANC worked to open up rural areas to allow operatives to work from these areas, while some Bantustans were hostile to the ANC. The movement established critical contact with structures and individuals such as Enos Mabuza and General Bantu Olomisa in the Transkei and Kwanyamazan and Gangwane rather, Kwandebele and others. The ANC had a plan to work within the homelands and turn them around so that they could be part of the struggle. The plan was to work within and change them. An important achievement during this period was the formation of Contralesa, which organized traditional leaders into the ANC, assisting the movement to make further inroads in rural areas. This was important. In fact, to our knowledge, no country that has waged the struggle as a liberation movement that has ever established the organization of the traditional leaders so political as the Contralesa, which indicated the continuation of the traditional leaders to participate in the struggle after a very huge harassment by the regime since they realized that they were part of establishing the ANC. The regime unleashed terror in communities around the country during this period. We pay our respects to the families of many who were killed in state-sponsored violence in KwaZulu-Natal and the now Gauteng area during the 1980s. We also remember other comrades who died in other tragic killings, such as the Trojan Horse Massacre in Cape Town, Griffiths and Victoria Mxenge, the Pepco 3, Credoc 4, Delcy September, Ruth First, and other comrades who were killed by hit squads inside and outside the country. When the ANC and other organizations were unburned in February 1990, freedom had come at a great price. Leaders were released from jails across the country. Underground activities began to operate openly, and others began returning home from exile. The ANC began to establish legitimate branch and regional structures of the movement inside the country. Nelson Mandela was elected president and Oliver Tambo as national chairperson at the 1991 ANC National Conference, the first inside the country after the unbanning of the ANC. The ANC was committed to ending apartheid through a series of negotiations and participated fully in the Convention for a Democratic South Africa, CODESA. But it is important to note that the ANC played a leading role in shaping the nature, form, process, and content of the CODESA and its outcome. The Boy Patong massacre and the tragic assassination of Comrade Chris Hani threatened to derail the talks. President Mandela provided matured leadership together with the leadership of the ANC, saved the situation and enabled us to focus on the goals at hand. We are proud of the fact that the negotiations took place on South African soil, managed by South Africans themselves. The ANC has always promoted unity by bringing together negotiating parties under its wing as a united front. You will recall that as we started the negotiations, there were many parties that were running homelands, some of them oppositions in the homelands. And therefore, the National Party had hoped these will join them to be on the other side of the table. We, as the ANC, with our experience, convinced them that to be on the side of the ANC was the right thing to do. And indeed, they came over, we formed the United Front. On the 27th April 1994, millions of South Africans, black and white, voted in the first democratic elections. The leadership of the ANC, under the guidance of President Mandela, united the nation behind the goal of reconciliation and nation building. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission was established to deal with the mysteries and painful atrocities of the past. We congratulate South Africans for the mature handling of this difficult transitional process. Your Excellencies, when we say today, the celebration is not just by the ANC and for the ANC, but it is for all South Africans. It is because at all these phases, the South African people played critical roles to ensure that the right solutions to challenges were found. Your Excellencies, comrades and friends, the first 11 years of freedom have been successful. The first 7 years of freedom have been successful. The ANC has laid a sound foundation for socio-economic development, although challenges remain. The vision for the first 2 decades for freedom are encapsulated in the following pillars: the building of a united, democratic, non-racial and non-sexist society, deepening our democracy, the culture of human rights and people's participation in changing their lives for the better, meeting basic needs and developing human resource, building the economy and creating jobs, combating crime and corruption, transforming the state, building a better Africa and a better world. The first few years after the end of apartheid was about putting in place the correct legal framework and mechanisms. The second phase was about executing our plans and programs. We have succeeded in addressing the many challenges facing South Africa. We have moved some way to ensure access to basic services in areas such as healthcare, social security, housing, electricity, water and sanitation, education and others. Today, we ask ourselves, what has made the ANC survive for 100 years? It was established by a nation as a response to a national challenge. It is not an organization of a few. It is guided by the interests of the nation. It is people's organization. That is why its founders call it the Parliament of the people. It takes the trouble to clarify its policies, strategies and tactics, which are continuously reviewed so that they reflect the changing situation in the land. That is why the ANC during every term organizes a national policy conference which helps to keep the policies relevant and focused. The ANC has well-built organizational structures that make it change with the times and adapt to new conditions. It adheres to serious discipline in general and political discipline in particular, and emphasizes respect. It has strong internal democratic processes. It empowers its cadres politically. It has a culture of open and democratic debate on any matter. It has grown not just to be a national or regional or continental organization. It is an international organization. It has a culture of working with progressive organizations of all types. It is an organization that is prepared to learn, and also it is conscious of its position as a leader in society. The ANC always humbles itself. It is not arrogant. This is what has made the ANC to live and to lead so long. It is definitely different from many political parties and organizations. Your Excellencies, compatriots and friends, as we mark the ANC centenary, this is the right moment to pause and ponder the future of South Africa and of the ANC over the next 100 years. We must ask and answer the difficult questions about the future of our country. During this year, 2012, our nation must renew our determination to build a South Africa founded on the principles of the Freedom Charter and the democratic constitution. We must bring new energy and new ideas into the kind of society we want to build over the next few decades. As the ANC prepares for its policy conference in June and its 53rd National Conference in December 2012, we call on all South Africans to join a national dialogue on the future of the country. This debate should be based on our common commitment to build a caring society that is truly non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, prosperous, and united in its diversity. With regard to the way forward, we have identified the triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality as needing attention. Principally, Africans, women, and youth continue to carry a disproportionate burden of the challenges. Over the next decade, both the ANC and all organs of state shall pay a single-minded and undivided attention in order to overcome these triple challenges. Our education and training system should be the cornerstone of all efforts to radically transform South Africa and build a truly non-racial and non-sexist, democratic and united and prosperous society. As we move into the future, we shall invest hugely in and elevate the importance of theoretical and ideological work, as well as a scientific approach to analyzing and solving societal problems. To join the ANC should, among other things, mean a commitment to lifelong learning through theory and practice. The ANC has led our people well during the struggle against colonialism and apartheid because it had a distinct capacity to produce a galaxy of leaders of exceptional qualities and talents. Two of its presidents, President General Luthuli and President Nelson Mandela, were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. This affirmed the quality of leadership that the ANC produces. And no movement can boast of two Nobel Peace Prize winners as its leaders. Only the ANC. This unique character has enabled the ANC to produce some of Africa's finest revolutionaries, men and women of courage and conviction, vision and humility, intellect and integrity, selfless service and loyalty to the people of our country and continent. As we move into the future, the ANC will renew its internal systems and processes in order to prepare and produce new generations of leadership for our country whose integrity and passion to serve our country is unquestionable. The ANC has always been able to attract into its ranks all South Africans who have distinct abilities and capabilities necessary to push the revolution forward. As we move forward, the ANC will intensify its program to recruit and train young people who showed tremendous potential, skills, and talents in all fields of human endeavor. We are determined to move the second centenary with a more rejuvenated organization that is strategically positioned to continue to lead the people of our country and continent in their tireless and ceaseless quest for a better life in a just and more humane world. In this regard, the most urgent task facing us is to speed up the building of a national democratic society wherein all South Africans enjoy an improved quality of life, especially the working class and the poor. During its second century of existence, the ANC will undoubtedly require new organizational capacities and strategic capabilities to give political, moral, and intellectual leadership and serve our nation all the 5 pillars of social transformation. These are the organization, the state, the economy, the international arena, work, and the ideological terrain. In 2012, we will take urgent and practical steps to revitalize the grassroots structures of the movement. We will take urgent and practical steps to once again place the ANC at the forefront of the progressive forces for change. We will take urgent and practical steps to fast-track the development of cadres, new and old. We will take urgent and practical steps to ensure that our program of transforming our country is accelerated and taken to new heights. We will take urgent, practical steps to restore the core values, stem out factionalism, and promote political discipline. We will take urgent and practical steps to place education and skills development at the center of our transformation and development agenda. We will take urgent steps to deepen our contribution to the renewal of the African continent and the progressive forces in the world. We will take urgent and practical steps to professionalize and modernize the operations of the ANC. Excellencies, compatriots and friends, the 1942 ANC conference passed a resolution that the ANC should have 1 million members by the time it celebrated its centenary. It is my pleasure and honor to announce that we have achieved this goal. The total membership of the ANC is 1,027,389. These are members in good standing. KwaZulu-Natal leads with 244,900. Followed by the Eastern Cape with 225,597 members. Gauteng 121,223. Limpopo 114,385. Mpumalanga 98,892. Free State 76,334. Northwest 60,319. Western Cape 43,397. And the Northern Cape has 42,342. The figures are much higher if we include members who are not in good standing but who are members of the ANC. These are audited members in good standing. We congratulate all members for working hard to enable us to meet this target of a resolution that was taken by our leaders. Comrades, it is now my pleasure to announce the winners of the ANC Annual Achievement Awards for our centenary year. They are as follows. The Sol Plaatje Award, conferred on the best performing ANC branch, goes to the Sondelani branch. Bohlabela region, Mpumalanga. The Charlotte Matlega Award.
And as the President starts to come towards the end of his speech, as he begins the process of awarding ANC members that have done well in the past year, it's been a significant speech, and I'm sure the full text of which you can find on the ANC website. But he certainly did mention quite a lot of the history and some of the challenges that the party faces going forward. And watching it from here, and also other parts of the city, the overflow areas and the cricket area in particular, Griselda Lewis is there. Let's find out how the speech has been received so far. Griselda?
Well, Peter, what I can tell you is that it's been excitement here at the cricket stadium for a number of hours. It's been a day of song and dance. They've come out in their hundreds to come and celebrate with the African National Congress. As we've been saying, for the entire day, the ANC has turned 100. I got a sense this morning from speaking to most of the people who were here that most of them traveled for hours. Some of them didn't even have accommodation, but they're saying that they want to come and celebrate with the political party which they can identify with. But let's talk to some of them. They've just been listening to the President speak for the past couple of minutes, but I tell you, the momentum here keeps growing. They're not getting any more tired. Well, let me just tell you, the group that is here, Peter, is the group that was not able to go into the Free State Stadium due to the capacity, to the high volumes of people who wanted to come and celebrate with the African National Congress. Let me just speak to one of the people in the crowd just to find out about what they're doing here, first of all, and what it's been like so far. Sisi, masithethe nawe, jebula apha namhlanje, uzobhiyoza ne-ANC, usuka phi uthi uzokwenza ntoni apha namhlanje?
Ngisuka e-KZN, ku-Ward 92, ku-Ashigumede Zone, zizobhiyoza ne-ANC, ngoba iqeda u-100 years. Indlela engibone kumnandi ngayo angazi ANC angangiphinde ngiwele kwenye indawo without ANC. ANC njengothanda ngayo walela inkululeko. Silokhuza amabhunu sibula amabhunu okhokho bethu nogogo bethu baphansi labafowethu through lamabhunu lana. Sayithola inkululeko sasingangisho ema-toilet abelungu esibandlulula kodwa namhlanje siyakwazi ukungena ema-toilet. Ngiyawuthanda u-ANC.
Yabonga Sisi. Let's come to one more lady here and find out what her thoughts are. Sisi, you've been here since this morning. I've been watching you. There's a whole lot of excitement here at the cricket stadium. You're here to celebrate, of course, with the ANC. Sorry. I'm saying you're obviously here to celebrate the 100 years of the ANC. Tell us more. As you can hear, Peter, the excitement continues here at the cricket stadium, and some of them say these celebrations will continue even way after the president has spoken and once everybody departs and leaves all these stadiums that have been accommodated or that have been put together to accommodate all these people.
Griselda, thank you very much indeed, and it certainly looks like the people at the cricket ground there have still got loads of energy. Here at the stadium, they seem a little fatigued at the moment, but I'm sure that they're going to get recharged as the party continues very shortly. In fact, we're expecting the centenary cake to be cut in a short while after the speech the president makes. Well, let's check in at Loch Logan, which is, I believe the local name here is the waterfront. Palesa is there. Let's find out how people have been reacting there. Palesa?
I'm at Loch Logan Park, which is one of the overflow areas. This is where people who could not fit into the stadium are watching proceedings from a big screen television. Now, the temperature today, I'm told, is 35 degrees. It's scorching hot, but it has not prevented people from coming here in their numbers. They started arriving from as early as 10 a.m. and at the moment they're sitting on camping chairs. It's quite relaxed, but I have a few people here. They'll just give us an insight as to what it's like at Loch Logan Park. Good day, ma'am. How are you experiencing today's proceedings?
Thank you. My name is Simakwe from the Palesa municipality at Mpumalanga. Today's day is very much important to everyone, as you can see. Though we didn't go inside the stadium, it's very, very much packed. Everyone is happy, but we are receiving the message from outside this big string, and the weather is very much beautiful for us. We are enjoying ourselves and we are celebrating the ANC's birthday today. It's very much important to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dipaliseng. And we'll be moving on to our next guest. Ma'am, how are you experiencing today?
I'm experiencing that the atmosphere is very good because everybody is excited, is going up and down because we're happy about ANC turning 100 years.
Thank you very much. And there you have it from the people themselves. And it's back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much indeed to Palesa, who's at Loch Logan there. And again, quite a bit of enthusiasm with everybody watching from outside who couldn't get a seat inside the inn, as it were. And as you can hear in the background now, the president of the ANC has been leading the crowd in song. And they've responded, they're recharged and energized. I wonder if it's the same where Tulufelo Matubedi is at the athletics track. Tulufelo?
Peter, I'm still here at the Athletic Stadium. There's a couple of people that are already fatigued. You can see it in their eyes. Some are sleeping, but some are upbeat. They're still celebrating. And the president's speech was basically paying homage to this glorious movement. And this movement has transcended the test of time. Now, you can say, when it started, the ANC have been saying that they have been promising to deliver what they say was the mother of all parties. And with the crowd, the capacity crowds that have filled this place and other places, you can see that they did exactly that. They delivered on the promise to deliver a party befitting of a movement which is turning 100 years. You can hear the ladies that are ululating in front of us, all of them in celebration of the 100th year of the ANC. Peter, back to you in the studio.
All right, well, as we can see now, the celebrations have started to pick up significantly, and in the middle of the stadium now, we're seeing the MK soldiers toy-toying and reenacting, I guess, some of the way they celebrated during the struggle years. Jacob Zuma now really taking charge of the atmosphere in the way that he does. He has a unique charm when he's off his speech, and he starts to just speak from his heart. And this is one of the things that has endeared him to many across the country. And as I said, the cake is now being brought forward and is going to be cut. This is a 100-year birthday cake. Again, as I said, the MK veterans there are carrying the cake towards the celebrations. Now, joining me, who's been watching the proceedings today, is analyst Samado Dafikeni. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Was it everything that you expected?
It's the kind of a talk that we expected, that they would take the full history of the country and demonstrate the role that the ANC played. And I think it tried to do that. Though the speech was long, for a 100-year organization, perhaps it needed to cover as much ground, acknowledging all those who contributed.
What would you say that the feeling of people across the country would be on a day like today?
Can you come again?
What would you say the feeling of people across the country would be on a day like today?
I do think that a great sense of history, because when you talk of the formation of the ANC, it goes beyond just the country itself. No matter what the weaknesses might be there within the movement or the ANC, they do know that this touched the entire continent and the entire country. Many organizations, even those which were offshoots of the ANC, still have a claim to that particular history. It was a defining moment for a new political epoch in the country.
Why has the ANC lasted so long?
Why has the ANC
lasted for so long?
I think the ANC lasted for so long because of the quality of leadership, because of the importance of unity that they emphasized, and also because the kind of the struggle that they were fighting started having the kind of international reinforcement, and it became iconic in many ways that they could not afford to stop.
Listening to the speech, it was quite clear that the president was keen to make sure that everybody felt included, not just people in South Africa, but the countries also that assisted during the struggle.
South African struggle in the history of the world is one of the most internationalized struggle, wherein the international contribution right across the world, the issue of apartheid became a rallying point. The issue of the release of the Rivonia trialists or the prisoners became an international cry. That is why this particular struggle had become so important that we acknowledge, or the ANC acknowledge, the role that the world played.
And I would imagine that unfortunately he wasn't able to be here, but Nelson Mandela is certainly resonating in the hearts and minds of many people here. He was, I suppose, one of the modern icons of the ANC.
and of the world as well. Because when you talk of Nelson Mandela, you're talking of a world icon. Because he knew when to fight, he knew when to make peace, and he knew when to step out of power. And he remained such a symbol and a beacon of hope for most people across the world in their various struggles. And that is the one simple reason that Nelson Mandela resonates so well across here, and no one dare say you could falter him. And he's the one who always reminds people that he's only human. He has his faults.
Ban Ki-moon said that the ANC is more than just a political movement. He almost hinted as if there was something, I don't know, spiritual or beyond just an organization.
Surely when you look at the number of African countries that fashioned themselves along the ANC formation, when you look at the different countries that were touched by this, the different struggles right across the world, and the length of the struggle itself meant that the United Nations and the world community had to play a role bigger than what they normally play.
All right, so the Centenary flame is going to make its way around the country. Do you think that that's going to impact on the people as they receive it? It was quite an emotional speech that Baleka Mbete gave around the flame. Do you think it'll be received in the same way?
I do think that it's going to be received more or less in the same way, but not at the same level in all different provinces. The unfortunate thing is that the centenary is coinciding with the ANC's elective Congress year. That will play itself out because you have provincial congresses, you have elections of COSATU, of SACP, and all the kinds of dynamics. When the flame comes, those may percolate to the surface, but it won't take away from the proud moment in most instances, just beyond the ANC itself.
Past President Thabo Mbeki received a huge round of applause when he came in and his name was mentioned, and particularly when he was carrying the torch. Is that something that might surprise some people?
I don't think so. Gradually, you see that ANC and many people in the country have been warming up to him and beginning to revisit his legacy and his contribution in spite of all what happened in 2007 and 2008. And that he has appeared now in this event and participated, it will go a long way in kind of bringing him back to the mainstream fold of the ANC.
All right, okay. It looks like they're about to cut the cake now. This is celebrating 100 years. It's a big cake for a big organization that certainly has captured the hearts and minds of thousands, millions of people in South Africa and across the continent, as Samadoda was telling us. And joining hands together there, we're seeing President Jacob Zuma, Gwede Mantashe, the current leadership of the African National Congress. And this is a great moment, isn't it?
It's a wonderful, and to many it would be an emotional moment, because as many heads of state said last night, South Africa was the first to take up this struggle. But it was faced with such a formidable opponent that it became almost the last country in the continent to gain its independence. Even though many others, Namibia, the others, Zambia and so forth, had emulated the birth of the ANC in their own countries some years later. But it was South Africa which came last. And it's also a South Africa that the world is looking at as a laboratory in terms of an internally arranged peaceful resolution of conflict, and also dealing with a deeply divided society in terms of reconciliation.
You know, when the president was speaking, he was talking about the various milestones and key moments in the history of the ANC. And I just kept on wondering that, you know, on the individual level, a lot of people will have their own individual memories about that time, that 100 years. What sort of things will people be remembering, other than perhaps the significant and key moments like Sharpeville, June 16, and so on and so forth?
The history of South Africa and the history of the struggle in South Africa, touching all parts of the country and the world, still has to be written in its fullness, because ordinary men and women, children, churches, peasants played roles that are not yet reflected in the books. We are so sometimes obsessed with icons that the ordinary aunt who had to keep some people in some room, hiding them from the police, those who provided food, those who were passing mail, and those who were doing everything, and those who sacrificed and died. And besides, there are people who are not even aware that they were in a struggle, but the very toil in terms of their lives, whether they were working in the mines, in the farms, and they died in those conditions, they would then see the ANC as a collective embodiment of their aspiration to be free. That's why, whether ANC has weaknesses or not at times, they still look at it as potentially that body that will deliver them. And when you look at the first generation of Mandelas, Tambos, and Sisulus, if you use a biblical metaphor, they took people out of Egypt, but people are still in a desert yearning for that promised land. It is that main struggle that ANC is confronted with now.
Now, the theme of this year's celebrations is unity in diversity, and the president also outlined in his speech, he talked about how the ANC had managed to bring different race groups together, different people together. Do you think that that is something that continues to be celebrated and something that was a strength of the ANC?
ANC is a very complex organization in a sense that it has always lived as a broad church, as a mobilizing tool, bringing in very different strands of ideologies, philosophies.
Let's just cross to the Deputy President who's addressing the crowd now.
Of the African National Congress, we should toast to the unity of the AU. We should toast to the strength of the ANC's vision. We should toast to solidarity. We should toast to humility. And we should toast that the ANC must in the next 100 years have the ability to continue feeling very deeply the sufferings of our people right across the world, so that it must in action respond to the challenges that the President outlined in today's message. Comrades, you now have your champagne glasses, and those of you who do not have champagne glasses, at least you have cameras in your hands and clenched fists. Join me in toasting the unity of the African National Congress. To unity. Yep. Solidarity. Solidarity. To progressive vision. Thank you. While the Minister of Health is close to me, to the health of the African National Congress branches. Thank you very much. The leaders will now enjoy the champagne. And of course, they do so on your behalf through their lips. Thank you very much.
And there we're seeing the toast, the glasses being raised. The Deputy President of the African National Congress, Halima Motlanthe, saying, toasting to the unity of the party. Is there an underlying message there, do you think?
I do think that moving forward, their greatest challenge will be to unite the party, not only in terms of rhetoric, but taking very practical steps, because they had mentioned this unity when they walked out of Polokwane. But in terms of taking practical steps, it didn't happen with the same intensity. And the results in terms of internal divisions and tension are quite clear going to this particular year.
The President also talked about the need for a new energy. I guess that there's a recognition that something needs to change if they can carry on the way that they have in the past 100 years.
ANC has the greatest challenge of defining a future vision, because the challenges of 1912 and the current conditions of a governing party within the current conjecture are distinct and different. And it might as well be that to deliver the promise of democracy and emancipation is far more complex than to fight against an apartheid regime. And that is the challenge they need to have, and define a vision that unifies people.
So, looking forward then, what kind of ANC do you see is going to be created?
It depends on the leadership, because they need to deal with the issue of discipline. They have to deal with the issue of the quality of a cadre that they have. They have to deal with the issue of corruption. They have to deal with the issue of materialism, where people are seeing the state as an access to resources. They have to deal with those things and begin to define a new unifying vision moving forward. If they can manage those and continue to groom new leadership that embodies these visions and values, then ANC would have a longer life. But if they don't, they would suffer the same fate as other liberation movements once they gain their independence.
And will the people continue to be patient?
I don't think people will continue to be patient. More so if the key issue of poverty, employment, ownership of wealth, and other areas of education are not dealt with a sense of urgency. And also they want to see compassion from leaders, that the leaders, even if they can't solve problems immediately, show some empathy to their situation. Those are the key things.
All right. 100 years on, your closing thoughts on what you've seen and heard today, and what's been happening in Bloemfontein in the last 3 days?
A history was made, and a history is being made. It now depends on the nation and the ANC to define the path and the roadmap moving forward, taking the nation along. And they can use the current process of developing a national vision as a tool and a vehicle for that.
All right. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us on this very important day.
It's my pleasure, always.
We've been chatting to political analyst Samadoda Fikeni, who's been sharing his thoughts with us about the significance of this day and the huge challenge that the ANC faces as it goes into its next century of existence. It's been a pleasure bringing you live pictures of the events that have been unfolding here today and in the past few days. And don't forget, across other channels, we'll continue to show you the celebrations as they continue. A little bit later on, I believe on SABC1, you'll be able to watch the 100 years in 100 minutes celebration. But from all of us here, thank you very much for joining us, and whoever you are, wherever you may be, continue to enjoy this significant moment in South Africa's history. Goodbye.
aan 7de Laan.
En daai sig?
Het jy nie gehoor van my openbare vernedering nie? Ek is seker die hele laan gons daaroor.
Nee. Wat het gebeur?
Wat is ons opsies? Emma is dalk ons beste bet. Of Reino.
Emma stel nie belang nie en Reino is te besig met sy boek. Ons het eintlik klaar op iemand besluit.
Wie?
7de Laan, Monday to Friday, 6:30.
Next on Erfsondes.
Voyu needs a member of the family to negotiate the Labuda proceedings on his behalf.
Tell them in our culture, I'm the eldest, therefore I should get the honor of representing you.
Lobola has glorified slavery. Selling your daughter as...
Mense se tradisies verskil.
Julle sal net verdwyn en niemand sal weet wat met julle gebeur het nie. Net soos niemand weet wat met my pa gebeur het nie.
Erfsondes, Tuesday 7:30, SABC2.
Vanaand in die nuus. President Jacob Zuma lewer sy 8 Januarie toespraak in 'n stampvol Vrystaatstadion in Bloemfontein tydens die ANC se eeufeesviering. Die spanning neem toe tussen Christene en Moslems in Nigerië. En Suid-Afrikaners oorheers die Afrika Ope golftoernooi in Oos-London. Dis die nuus om 6 op SABC2. Goeienaand. President Jacob Zuma